Hello, everybody. How you doing? Welcome to the last vestiges of summer.
Should have told us in advance. Maybe
I was like, I have a Hawaiian shirt.
Oh, yeah. We can do a whole Hawaiian theme next week if you want.
Hey, but everyone, check out this shirt. That's representing.
Cool.
Wait, what does it say under the... Oh, Rohirrim.
It's Rohirrim. It's like Lord of the Rings.
Nice. Yeah. The ride of the Rohirrim. That's awesome.
Yeah.
We're representing. Hey, everybody. Zin is here waiting to tell us all that he is one individually.
Ballers. Yeah, ballers are in the house.
Is insane. I have Melissa's books written down, and there are piles of them. I'll give you the ringers later. Twainy is more insane. I didn't think anybody could be more insane than Esme, but Twainy is showing her up.
Insane in the membrane.
Melissa, Twainy, scarfing down summer. Jason Stacy, what's up, peeps?
JRS,
one for the Chaotic Crusaders. How do you guys feel like you did this week? Was this like a gung ho week? Was this oh hey, we got this all taken care of kind of week? Oh, we'll just relax at our win. What was it like for your team?
I mean, I feel like first of all, I had a very chaotic week. Back to school really just like whipped me into shape, and I am reeling from that still. I think for the first week I was like, oh, we've been so busy, but it'll be better next week. And then this week I was like, oh my gosh, so busy, but it's got to be better next week. That might be a theme for August. I'm not sure. But as far as our team goes, I mean, I feel like we were all reading, but I do feel like we may have lost a bit of our steam from the first week because we went like haywire that first week, and we had several like tap out. And so I do feel like we're starting to just kind of like get that nice steady pace. So we're conserving our energy for a big win, but we had a great week.
Shells, how about Jason and the Crusaders? How we doing?
The guys have been doing really, really well. Personally, I think I set my goals a little bit too high this week. But, you know, we all do that. It's been a little bit extra busy at work this week. So I've come home just wiped. Probably not as wiped as you, Madison, to be completely honest. But
not a contest.
No. It's only me. But yeah, I'm hoping personally, now I've got the wheels in motion, I will start to cross off those books, and I think that'll be the same for a lot of people in our team as well. Yep. Maybe next week we'll start finishing off those books that we've started.
Yep. Ray Lackey's just dropping in to see how bad that Zin and Mads got smoked this week.
Ray, you are a traitor, Ray. Actually, I know you can't pick your team. I just had one little stat that I thought was cool. So far, my team has read 17,428 pages, or the audio/digital equivalent.
Wow,
that's a lot.
I got no idea how many we've read because we've been
reading and reading. So,
oh my gosh, I haven't even done anywhere close to that kind of work. I got like, you know, I barely have the ringers numbers of books, and that's about it. And by the way,
our average book length is 361. Sorry, I thought I must have cut out for a second. Go ahead.
Oh, it's just making fun of Twainy for eating, working, watching, and reading all at the same time, which I'm sure she's doing.
Well, that's how they get so much done.
Yeah, I need someone to teach me how to multitask like that.
I was just saying that. I was looking, and it looks like our average length of book that we read so far is 361. So we're reading some pretty decent sized books too. That's an average. So there are people reading way bigger books, and we're still mostly reading. Our top percentage for the category, by the way, this week is still the novella. Andy, they're loving that option of the novella. So even though we're still taking the lead with that novella category, we're still pulling through at the page count. We're still pulling through with those medium-sized to large books. So, like, we're not just counting books. Like,
that's for the end.
Of course, for points we are, but like, think about that. Like, almost 20,000 pages in 2 weeks. I think that's awesome.
That's astounding. And by the way, I am JR Carell. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you all so much. A little bit of plastic surgery for the worst. He is working on joining us. He was in transition between work and home.
Work and home.
I kind of expect him to hop on from a car somewhere on a country road. But I wanted to ask you guys, like, you get a lot of people in the community that, like, sometimes they'll ask about booktubers and, oh, what do you need to set up your system, and oh, how does this work, and how can I do it? How did you two originally get inspired to say, you know what, I'm going to stick my face in front of a camera and talk about books and see what happens? How did you make that decision?
I mean, for me personally, it was, I discovered BookTube probably late 2019, early 2020, which is quite late actually for someone who's been a reader. I just never thought of finding people who enjoyed books on the internet. Like, I just never thought of it. And I started my Bookstagram in 2020. So the next, and then I found booktubers and stuff through that as well. So I was like, oh, maybe I could do this. And I'd subscribe to Illumicrate and Fairy Loot, and I was like, oh, other people do unboxings. Maybe I could do this. I will say my setup is probably a bit more intense than it needed to be when I first started, but my partner is very into tech, so he did everything he could to set me up. Bless him. Got me like a small camera, but a camera instead of filming on my phone. Nothing wrong with that. I think most phones are probably better than cameras these days, but that way I could actually learn how to edit, help me with editing software and all that stuff. And then I just started uploading, and I think I uploaded once, and then COVID hit. And then I started reading a whole lot more and watching more BookTube. And then I think July-ish of 2020, I was like, I could vlog and talk to people and talk through my books. And then I've taken breaks since then, but I've been doing content since then, which is weird because I don't feel like I've been doing it for like 4 years, but apparently I've been doing it for about 4 years.
There's the 2020 phenomenon for you right there.
Right?
Yeah.
I know I saw something the other day that was like, in 5 months, 2020 will be 5 years ago.
I can't believe that. Like,
that blows my mind. Huh.
Yeah.
How about that?
I know. Why am I still stuck inside?
Yeah, it's crazy. And I really enjoy, and I think it was also a really good way for a lot of people during lockdown as well to meet new people, whether they were filming themselves or starting Instagrams and stuff. I think a lot of people got into content creation, and then people saw that people were making money off of content creation, and then they all kind of joined the bandwagon. But yeah, I just thought it would be a fun way to meet bookish people.
All right.
That's what I did.
Awesome.
And now I'm here with you guys.
Yay.
One day Ray's going to make good on those threats of making the entertainment encyclopedia happen, Captain. We're waiting, Ray. Come on. Get going. Did you have any of that anxiety early on, Madison, when you started? Because I see so many people being kind of freaked out. Oh, I need to have this, and I need to have this, and oh, I got to have a list ready to go.
No.
Like jump.
Like I'm not. I am a done and done is better than putting it off and never doing it because you want to make it perfect. And so my first video, if you scroll back, you can still see it. It is ridiculous. So I was involved in the BookTube community via Discord and comment sections way before I ever put out a video. And I'm not saying like I made a name for myself, but I had friends, people knew who I was, okay?
Yeah.
Just from around the block. And I was in a Discord and in a moderator position, and I was hosting a big Wheel of Time read along / reread. And I wanted to kind of introduce myself as the host to all, because there was like 100 people doing this. And don't ask me about that read along. It's actually a funny story. But
well, now we have to ask. Okay.
Yeah, now I want to know.
I quit. Okay, you guys, I quit like 4 months in. I had only read it like a year before, and I was so eager to do rereads, but I was like just getting into reading. And so all of a sudden my TBR, which beforehand was almost non-existent, it had like 6 series on it. All of a sudden I was in the community. I was on Discord. I was in the comments, like I said. So my TBR was exploding. And all of a sudden I was like, I don't have time for an 800-page reread every month. These aren't high priority. This isn't something I read, a decade ago and have missed. This is something I read last year. So I bowed out during The Shadow Rising, which is book 4, and it's actually one of my favorites of the series. But I still stayed and moderated the read along. So I didn't disappear and ghost, but I did quit my own read along, and that's like a big joke now. But anyway, I wanted to make a video because here's exactly why I started a YouTube video. Actually, hold on, someone's coming in. Making a video. Bye. All right.
I was hoping it was the cat. I saw the cat earlier.
No, that's my dog. That looks like a cat because she's, that kind of dog. Right. Anyway, I needed to communicate to my team, but I do so much better vocalizing things. I like to talk through things. I ramble, I chat. Like you guys have picked this up so far. I don't convey myself as well through written word. And so I kept typing up these pinned posts and stuff. And I was like, you know what? I just want to talk to these guys. So I made a video and I posted it on YouTube just so it would be easy to access. Just post a link is a lot easier than uploading a video onto Discord. And so everyone watched it and they're like, oh, you should make like one video. Like you should. And I was like, I'm not going to be a booktuber. That was like the whole joke for like 6 months. I was like, well, I'm definitely not a booktuber. Like this is not a booktube channel, but I will upload a top 10. Okay, well, I'm not going to be a booktuber. This is not a booktube channel, but I might as well record a review for this. And then next thing you know, I'm uploading, 2 to 5 videos a month, depending on the month. And
you're a booktuber.
And all of a sudden, I guess I am a booktuber. I did take a hiatus for a little over a year for our big transition. My mom passed away. We moved. We adopted 2 kids. And it was just way too much. And this was never meant to be anything more than fun. And when something starts feeling fun and feels more like an obligation or it's stressful or you feel like you're letting people down, like that was a cue to me that like this is not a place I need to be putting my energy right now. So I stepped away, but you can't even imagine how gracious the booktube community is. Everyone, all the friends I made, not only were they supportive the whole time I was gone, checking in on me, just being supportive and available, but when I came back, it was like I never left. So this is the greatest community on earth, and I'm so glad that I am a booktuber, even though right now I'm a very spotty booktuber. I mean, the community is family, and so it's just like, this is the best place ever.
Well, Melissa's glad you stuck with it, and Jason comes for the book videos and stays for the nail polish tutorials.
Yeah, and eyelash tutorials. You got to look through the old videos. There's some randoms in there, some real randoms.
Oh, good. And 20's making me feel not quite so alone.
Okay, so she is a cockapoo. So she's half poodle, half cocker spaniel, and her name is Rosie Cotton. Name that book.
No,
that's Samwise Gamgee's wife.
Yes, ribbons in her hair. Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
But this Rosie.
I feel like I just passed like Fantasy's Jeopardy just there.
Oh, we should do that sometime. I know like Alan already does that, but we could come up with a version, right? His Jeopardy.
We'll get Alan on and we'll just torch him. We'll give him all the hard questions. See, Zin says you got to come back so you can win another one of these things. That's the rules.
That's what I do.
So, the other thing that I wanted to ask you guys was, and I know this is a tough question, but like if you had to say just off the top of your head without any, you're not going to be held to it, it's not going to be carved on Mount Rushmore. Do you have an all-time favorite, or do you have a book that you keep coming back to, or is there a book that you just love more than any other, the one that you got into fantasy? Like, is there one book that lit you up?
Well, I'm highly flammable, Andy. Okay. A lot of books light me up. No, I would say, here's the thing. When I think about a top 10 or I get asked this question, I always want to spend a long time like just ruminating, like, oh, but maybe it's this, or it should be this, or technically. But here's the deal. My gut answer is Realm of the Elderlings. That is my gut answer. Now, nice. I have some contenders that could easily just, but my heart is in the Six Duchies. Like, I am like, it's my favorite thing. And here's how I know, because ever since I finished it, I've never not been in the midst of a reread. So it's always my side chick, it's always my slow
Yeah.
roller.
Yeah.
Like I'm reading Fool's Fate right now, and I'll probably read it over the course of 6 weeks. I just do little nibbles. But I'm never not reading A Realm of the Elderlings books because I can't stay away. It's like I'm not trying to sound like dramatic, but it's just part of me now, and I just don't feel like myself if I'm not reading it all the time. I love it.
Nice. Chels, how about you?
So that makes me sad because I don't think I've got anything like that.
Well, here's the thing. That
yet.
was a slow developing relationship because I liked the first trilogy. I really liked the second trilogy. And then when I got into the third trilogy, I was like, holy cow, this is something really special. And then as I was reading it and it was so like fond to me, it just immediately made me know that no matter how this ends, now that I'm so connected, I know I'm going to want to read it again. And it's not one of those series where you have to read it twice to get it. No. That's not that kind of reread. But once I got through it, I knew that I would never stop. So what did Zen just say? I didn't see that. Yeah, girl, you need a side chick, a book side chick.
We all need a book side chick.
I always have my main flame, and then I guess I am a little bit like her brand of pain is always good for me.
Yeah, I will say, having done these live shows now with you guys a couple of weeks, I am apart from the fact it wouldn't count because it's a reread for the first book, I now want to go back and try again with Realm of the Elderling because book one, we've had this conversation. Book one, it was like 3 stars. I was like, I don't really understand, but after talking to you, Madison, about it, and you said, oh well, yeah, you kind of see where I'm coming from, but it gets better. Now I'm interested.
And when I kind of just let myself, again, I enjoyed I mean, not everything's for everyone. I was enjoying the story. I did like the characters. But when I let myself just kind of let the writing take over and let the writing just kind of like I floated on it. Like I could just turn on my headphones or open the book and I just felt like it was the smoothest. When I kind of let that be my main source of enjoyment, the rest of it really like elevated.
Yeah.
And I became so emotionally invested in all of it because I let the magic of the way she writes sentences, the way she strings words together, I let that be my main motivator. And all of a sudden the rest of it was pure magic. So
yeah,
again, and it's not going to have the same effect on everybody because that's the point.
No,
there wouldn't be a lot of good books if we didn't each have our own favorite. So a lot of people think I'm crazy for loving this the way I do. But I mean, it's just my special book.
I also think as well that since I read that, what, maybe in 2021? Since reading that, I have read a lot more adult fantasy, shall we say, that is a lot more political or slower than your typical YA fantasy.
Yeah, it's the definition of a slow burn for sure.
Yeah, and I think now I enjoy that stuff a whole lot more than I used to. So maybe now is a better time to read it.
Absolutely. There's so many things that I think both ways. Like, I wonder if I had read that series now, how I'd feel about it. But then the other side of it is there's things that I loved at the beginning of my journey that I'm like, I wonder if I read that now, if it would, do the same things for me that it did then. Because I was a baby then. And maybe I had baby taste. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, actually recently I did that with my friend Lisa. We do a read along buddy read every month, and we were reading the Aragon books originally, and when I was a teenager I loved the first book. I managed to get through the second book, but I loved the first book, and I was like, I want to carry on with this series. I loved it. It was so good. I reread it earlier this year, DNF'd it. I was like, the first book,
it's kind of sad when that happens, right?
I can still see why I enjoyed it. But after that, I was like, no, I don't know what I saw in this.
Yeah. When I did a Harry Potter reread 2 years ago, I was worried that would happen to me. And luckily it didn't. I was still just like smitten. I was like, sorry, I love these books. I love them. Like, they're not perfect. They're really not. There's plenty of plot holes. Like, there's some issues. like congruency wise, but like I don't even care. Like I love those books. I love the world. I love the characters. I love the way she writes. And I could objectively go, this book is pretty flawed, but it didn't change my like love for it. So I like that when a book can like take a different shape when you're in a different phase of your life or your tastes have developed, but you still appreciate it and love it. But it is sad when you reread something you really liked and you're like, ooh, not so good now.
I agree.
So Chelt, you're kind of dodging the question, so I'm going to draw you back in.
What's your favorite book?
To be fair, Harry Potter was what started me off on the whole fantasy kick. Same as most people, right? Like we all read it as kids. I think
it's a correct answer.
Was, like a year after I was born or something. So my mum read it before me, and then as the books were coming out, my mum was reading them first and then reading them to me until I was old enough to read them myself. So for that would probably be like my top. I know there's a lot of iffy stuff with it, with the whole, but like nostalgic and love, and there's so many memories tied in to that series for me, as for a lot of kids. And also I've got a almost 10-year-old sister, and she's got into reading. It was the first series that she read to herself. She didn't understand a lot of the words that were in it or the later books, but she loves it. She collects the Lego. She's got like all her clothing's branded Harry Potter. She's so invested in her house. Like it's just that enjoyment.
It's a legacy series. It's something that you can start as a child and carry with you for your entire life. And I do believe.
And then you read it to your kid.
Yeah, in 30, 50 years, I think it will be viewed as a classic. I do. And it'll be something that, I mean, it's like you said, because there's been controversy and stuff. It's gone through different levels of acceptableness, but I think in the end, the books will stand on their own and they will be viewed as, because so many people, like that is the starting point for their love for reading, their love for fantasy, and it's special. Like I don't care how you spin it, this is a very special series.
And love is love. You don't have to defend it.
Well, but I also think kids, like all of the stuff that has gone on, how are you going to explain that to like a 7-year-old? Like in the grand, like you can explain the rights and wrongs of what has been said, but they won't understand why the book is bad, because the book isn't bad.
The book isn't bad. I'm hoping that just won't come up. I'm hoping it'll blow over.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the Bill Cosby's thing. I still love Bill Cosby's stand-up. I hate Bill Cosby.
He has some of the most brilliant stand-up that's ever been produced. Like it's just a fact. And it does give it a little bit of a different flavor, sadly, but you can still appreciate it for what it was.
You got to separate the art from the artist.
100%.
Hey, Aaron, I'm with you, man. I'm Terry Brooks. Like you go back and read Terry Brooks now, and it's just like, what was I thinking? But at the time, there was nothing else that was available that was like this big epic fantasy. And so it's just like if you're of a certain age, it was just like, this is the hole we fell into.
I know, and it's funny because I really started getting into reading fantasy as an adult, like an established real adult. And I've had so many people that are like, you got to read Shannara, and I've never read it. And it's not because I'm a hater. I just don't think it'll have the same effect on me that it had on all this generation that read it when they were young. It just won't feel the same to me. And so I respect it for what it, like the love that it instilled in people. And I know so many people who just, they have so much nostalgia and they have so much respect for it and they love it. But I'm just like, I'm not going to read it now because I know it won't hit the same as it did for you when you were 14.
Nope. Yeah. It's very much of its time. And
then I'll have to give it a low rating and I'll feel like a jerk. And half the fantasy community will be like, what do you mean you're like Shannara? So I'm just not going to go there.
That I do hate that. The should part when we get into the book community, I hate the should. Right? Yeah. It's like you shouldn't like this and you should like this and this is blah, 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 blah. Just like whatever that you like. It's like, yeah, exactly. Neil Gaiman. It's just like if you enjoy Neil Gaiman's work, enjoy it. You don't need to feel any other way about Neil himself. Hey, that's
yeah. Trust me, I got a lot of books written by real creeps on my shelf. But what are you gonna do?
Right? I love what is it? Ender's Game. Right? The artist is problematic. The book is not.
I think that's a lot of people. Unfortunately, people are problematic.
Yeah, it is. And I'm like, you know what? Here's the thing. If you have an issue, buy used books or check them out from the library.
yeah.
Then the artist doesn't get a dime of your money and you can still enjoy the words on the paper.
Yeah, I agree. I actually have a memory about this. I don't think it was Borders. I think it was Barnes and Noble when we lived out there many moons ago for the Half-Blood Prince. Is when we lived in the States, and me and my mum went to the midnight release, and we don't do that over here.
No.
I did the same thing.
Nobody does.
No,
that.
I stood in line at a Hastings. Andy, do you remember Hastings?
Yeah.
I stood in line at a Hastings, and for the midnight release, it's a core memory for me. I was with my brothers and my mom, and we stood in line, and it was being with the fandom. It was a human experience of standing in line, and my kids will never experience something like that ever.
No.
And it's kind of sad because I'm like, us, mall rat generation, like we knew how to stand in line to wait for a new release, and it's special. So I mean, and they're going to have their own experiences that are core memories and just as like impactful, but it's kind of sad that I'm like, you're never going to stand in line in a rainy Hastings parking lot at midnight but in November, but I did.
We did that in LA. My wife was a Harry Potter fan, and I was like, come on, don't give me this greasy kid stuff. And she was like, come to the Barnes and Noble opening at the Grove with me because the book is releasing at midnight. People are going to be there. I'm like, you're out of your mind. Nobody's going to be at a bookstore waiting
for a kid's book.
Give me a break.
Yeah, we were.
And we went.
Oh,
and
yeah.
like, everybody's in red and gold scarves.
Yeah, we were dressed up.
Everybody has round glasses, and everybody has a hat and a wand. Yeah. It's like, what is happening?
Yeah, they had a whole party at
wholesome. It's so wholesome and pure. Like that's like the good stuff about being a human.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I've got photos as well of being at that party, and we went with family friends, and where there was me, my friend, and then her brother and her male cousin, and I've got a photo of us with two random girls. They must have been at least 5 years older than us at that point. So they were teenagers. We were not, and these young boys were bright red in this photo because these girls were so pretty.
Oh, see, they remember that too.
Yeah, I've got the photo.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just good to like nerd out with a bunch of other like-minded people.
Yeah. And then we lined up at midnight and got the book and went home. I think it was probably one of the latest nights I'd ever had.
And you went home and read it. Like you went home and you're like, all right, let's crack it open and get started.
I went home to bed. I think I was like 8.
You were little.
I was small. My mum probably did.
One of the things I love about Harry Potter is that it inspired the love of reading in an entire generation. Like it was a rock star type of moment. That doesn't happen for books. Right. And so it was like like COVID. It was like this shared experience that everybody had. And you could all kind of get in on Harry Potter, and it was open to everybody. Right. It didn't matter how smart you were or how old you were. It was just like, here's a book you can enjoy having a good time reading it. And then that whole kind of rock star moment where it's like everybody's in on it created this other thing in reading where it's like, nobody in that generation, my favorite thing about the last book, Harry Potter, is that entire generation, none of them were ever going to be afraid of a 700-page book because they'd all read one.
It's attainable. Like that's something you can tackle. I love book phenomenons because even if the book itself is probably, it's not excellent literature, the way people get it. Well, listen, I'm talking about, Harry Potter is something I love, but I can objectively say like it's not the most well-written thing I've ever read. Like I said, it's kind of messy plot-wise. There's some stuff going on, but it's so special because the way Andy was saying, the way like united the world. And we've also seen that with some other, we've seen it with Twilight, we've seen it with Hunger Games, we've seen it with ACOTAR now. And here's the thing, is none of those books are going to win Pulitzer Prize, Hugo, whatever, but how many people can say, I didn't read it all till I read Twilight, and I read every book, and I read it all in a week, and I stayed up till midnight, and then they moved on to something else and something else. The next thing you know, they're avid readers now, and it all started with, something that we like to make fun of. But I'm like, people are reading is never a joke. Like that's always really cool.
Right.
So
100%.
again, like I read ACOTAR this last week. I used it for my Midsummer's Ball prompt. I'm not gonna lie, it was worse than I thought it was gonna be. But
You were not impressed.
but I am probably going to read book 2. So what does that say? You know, like, I feel like that 2 stars rounds up to a 3 when you're like, but I do kind of want to know who she ends up dating. You know, I do. She got me. Like, I'm a little hooked. So I respect that though, because how many people are reading voraciously now because they started reading these Sarah J. Maas books and they're like, well, what else is out there? This is amazing.
Well, that's the thing
this
at
is
the
my
minute,
personality.
isn't it?
What's that?
Yeah, so at the minute, Book Talk has obviously rocketed ACOTAR up, which I think is amazing. I'm glad like loads of adults are reading, because obviously we always focus on getting kids to read, but we never really focus on getting adults back into reading because we're like, oh well, busy, like you've got other things to do, but we need kids to read. But it's got a load of people back into reading, which is fantastic. But it does kind of baffle me a little bit because obviously I like adult fantasy, not really a romancy reader. So I'm seeing all these people that have never spoken about books before talk about how great ACOTAR is and how great Fourth Wing or
it's a little alarming.
And it's like amazing. I'm so glad you're reading. But can we read something else?
Well, and it's interesting because I was thinking about my review. I wrote a short review, but I'm going to go back because my initial opening sentence is, I fully acknowledge that I'm probably not the target audience for this book, but I'm confused as to who the target audience is because the content is very adult, but the reading level is 5th grade. So it is a perfect book for someone who's a grown-up but hasn't read a book since they were in school, because you're not ever going to be confused. The plot is spoon-fed to you. There's no nuance. There's no like everything you need to know, you are told. But there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
If it's a starting point. Now, if you think this is peak literature and this is where you flatline, then we got to talk because it really wasn't good. But I can see how it would be inviting, engaging, and hook you. But this is a starting point, guys. This is not where you should end up with books. My opinion.
It's okay.
Unless you want to, but you can do better. You can do better.
You can do better.
So with ACOTAR, did you decide you're going to read book 2 because you really want to know, or because you had already committed to doing book 2?
Do you want my real answer?
Oh, really? Yeah.
Okay. I went into it expecting a lot of spice and smut, and that whole book had 2 sex scenes. I want some raunch. I'm coming back to see some fairies. Bang. That's why I'm coming back.
Fair enough. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I haven't read all of the second book, but it's there.
I'm like that meme where he's like, I was told there would be fairy sex, you know? Like,
and
Theo read it with me.
At the wrong moment.
Theo, we gotta. No comment. No, we read it together, and that's the other thing is we read it. Theo and I, buddy, read it, and we honestly had so much fun. Fun, fun. Like we weren't just like making fun of it or anything. Trust me. Like, but I haven't talked about a book so much. Wait, what can I say? I haven't talked about a book so much while reading it in a long time. So like for the fact that like the engagement level and the fun we had chit-chatting about it, like absolutely no regrets. Like was it 2.5 stars? Yes. Do I regret reading it? Not one bit.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's one of them. I think I actually rated it kind of highly, but again, I think I read it at the start of my adult reading.
Sure. So
I've read other things since that I think when I eventually go back and reread ACOTAR and get through the series, it may not fare so well.
You don't need to reread that first book. I can sum it up for you in like 35 seconds.
Beauty and the Beast, but with
Beauty and the
fairies.
Beast. Oh, Beauty and the Beast is really good. You should
don't bang enough. Is that the review?
It was minimal banging, Andy.
Minimal.
Yes.
But I mean, I guess it's book 1. They're just getting to know each other.
I think it's also, I don't really know, obviously, how she wrote her books too much, but if the writing style does feel quite similar to Throne of Glass, which again is younger because it's a YA series.
Mhm.
So I wonder if she wrote that either during the Tog series or like straight after.
Yeah.
And then her writing has progressively got, like Harry Potter, the books get
Sure.
older as
Well, because I love
they
that, though. It
write
makes
more.
sense because the kids are getting older. So she's assuming that her audience is getting older and their reading levels are growing with the kids. So the
Yeah.
books get more complex and the reading level gets more advanced as you read the books because the kids are aging up in the books as well.
Yes.
But with ACOTAR, it felt like very accessible to a YA reader, just much more adult content. And so, like I said, it's a perfect entry point. If you're like, man, I used to read so much in middle school and I just haven't read a book in like 15 years. Girl, pick up ACOTAR. Like, you're going to like it. Like, it's going to suck you in. You're going to read it quick because even though it feels kind of chunky in your hands, like it is a fast reader. And it's nice to just like feel like you check something off a list too. Be like, look at this book I read. So yeah, pick it up. If you're curious about it and you don't read that much, try it.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts as well about Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood, which is book 1 in the next series. However, I am dubious to recommend this book because the first book for me was 5 stars and the second book was not it. Like, and the reviews I've seen since about the third book that came out, it's just getting progressively worse. So I don't know.
That's actually like my least favorite thing that can happen in a series is like books should get better as you go. They should not get worse as you go. No. And there's a trilogy that's popular that I always think of when I'm like, the first book was so promising and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The middle one, I was like, well, it's a middle book, you know, that's fine, not as good. And then the third one was so downhill that I was like, did these books just get worse? Like 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, like what? Books are supposed to get better. So that's frustrating when if book 1 is the strongest book to me, that's a red flag that if that's like a everyone says, you know, like that's a common theme. That to me, I'm like, then I probably just won't.
We're just cashing in at this point. Hey, this was popular. Let's make another one.
Yeah.
Hey, Bryce,
should we do points?
To get us back on track. So, do you guys want to go into the scoring part of the scoreboard?
Let's do it. We really like milked those questions.
We really did. And actually, it was a lot of fun. Do you guys want to talk about your teams real quick? Do you want to do any shout outs on your teams?
Our like top performers were pretty much the same as last week. Like I said, we kind of took a breather this week. I mean, trust me, we were still producing numbers, but like we didn't have any like crazy, like I read 92 books this month. You know, we didn't have any of those. All of us are kind of like I said, we're settling into our pace. We're talking about quality over quantity. Okay.
I mean, same for us. Esme and Twainy smashing it as always. Honestly, how they read so much, I've got no idea. No idea at all. And then our main prompt that is still well above everything else is still dark cover, which is quite interesting. I don't know if that's a theme because of, you know, we're reading more fantasy or it's just it's probably quite a simple prompt. Most fantasy books are quite dark, if I'm honest. Probably sci-fi as well, I suppose. If they've got space on the cover, that's quite dark. But
it's a good prompt.
It is a good prompt.
For the ringers, Esme has one more prompt to go. So she is reduced to human speed for this month. So, you know, a little bit of a breather. Andrea's doing great. She's halfway through 7. Not sure about Press and Shaken right now. However, I do need to call out Melissa is currently at 14 books for the month. And then our resident crazy person of TBR Quest is 20 with 2220.
Oh gosh. How do you guys do it?
We're 15 days into the month. I have absolutely no idea.
I'm jealous is what I am.
I'm jealous.
And confused, but mostly jealous.
And confused, but yeah, exactly. So I will go ahead and I will start in the place of actually, Madison, you had the lead last week, so I think you should start with your try and beat it suckers score. And then I'll follow it up with the Monstars.
No problem. I'm very proud of our numbers. So we are at a total of 60 books read, and we only have
Amazing.
one missing review. So we're at 119 points.
Wow.
Yeah.
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 119. All right. So the Monstars are moving and cruising and are not falling behind, but they are not at 119. Monstars are sitting at 103 for the total.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I just want to say it's 103 points. I mean, we're looking at the Monstars total was something like 54 lines. So yeah, we're talking about
They killed it.
54 books read total for the team during the course of August. So I think that's amazing. So Chelsea, the Monstars can't do it this week. The question is, can you?
I'm nervous.
Well, Andy, the answer is that the Chaotic Crusaders have got 105 points for this week. So we're still in second. I mean, I was a bit nervous when you said the Monsters were at 10 something. I was like, oh dear. But we're clinging on to second place here. Not too
okay,
far.
So we need to make 20 is a machine. I mean, just look at that. Yeah, and I am definitely doing a ringer page count at the end. I'm curious to see exactly how many books, because I think the ringers can pull off 100 books by themselves between the six of them.
I bet they can.
And I think Aaron is going to be joining the ringers because he's already shot. I think he's done with his 6. So I think he
can
wants
team captains join the ringers, or are we not allowed in there?
Oh yeah, of course.
I think I'll be finishing my 6 in the next day or two.
Nice. It's a special chat. You can only get there if you're insane.
Well, I am mentally unstable. So.
Okay, so the Crystal Ballers are looking at 120. The Chaotic Crusaders, 119. Thank you. The Chaotic Crusaders are 105.
We are.
Okay, and then the Monstars are at 103 with a gap of 14 books. That's all that needs to be made up in order to take down the dominant Crystal Ballers.
I hope we're not losing our steam. All right, Crystal Ballers, we got this.
The gap is closing.
We have to listen to Zen every day until the Ballers go down. So we're going to have to do it.
He's going to have to get out his mega horn, his megaphone.
There are no better teammates. Okay, thank you all so very much. We appreciate you, and keep on